oh, there's some flowers over here that I saw when I was flying around, f***ing about. What are we for? That kid staring out the window, neither understanding nor absorbing what it is that's been chalked across the board at the end of the room. The endless pondering, the avoidance of duty, purpose, or productivity, the could do betters, the must try harders, the if only they could apply themselves a bit more. Apply ourselves to what exactly? Being productive. I don't like labels, but so often for me, I have found with my recent diagnosis of ADHD that I use it in sentences that contain the words, "it's probably because of." This label for me has become a clinically approved "my bad," an apology lacking sincerity, but also an abdication of responsibility into some kind of form of neurological wiring that hinders us, as if not lumbering ourselves with these facts and figures and rules are somewhat a hindrance in life, when we know deep down they're hardly a disability. Yes, if you want to be an airline pilot or a classical concert cellist, or indeed an orchestrator or arranger, it's problematic if you can't absorb the very principles laid out by others, as opposed to the weird hieroglyphic conversations that we have in our own heads that creates pi. What would it be like if it was 3.16? What would it be like to fill this 4 minutes and 33 seconds, not with music, but with silence, a premise, a concept that is relatable, explicable, but seemingly bereft of purpose or contribution to the non-diverse way of thinking, the sneers, the chuckles, the slight embarrassment on your behalf that you have created a, yeah, but what's the point? Until it is seen that you've kicked open the doors of perception, the doors of possibility, the doors of invention. So I've been pondering and struggling with stuff of late. The label handed to me, ADHD, I don't know, for me, the label, and this is just a personal experience, has not been helpful, because all that has happened is they've gone, well, we've established that you're a square peg, and now we have determined that we can select a suitable mallet to hammer you in to the round hole. You can make life slightly less turbulent for yourself by simply fitting in, even if your corners, your edges have been lathed off somewhat in order to turn you into a bit of human dowel where the top doesn't protrude from the table of life. Jesus, that's a bad metaphor. What's the fucking point? Why have people like us? Why does every classroom have that person staring out of the window, not paying attention, not understanding, not caring, and certainly not remembering anything that's been uttered inside? I think I have the answer. Bees. They evolved many millions of years before us humans did. But what's interesting about bees, all kind of working for the common good, except for about 10% of the hive, who just literally fuck around. They don't do any of the work in the hive, they don't do any of the queen shagging, they don't gather nectar, contribute to the production of honey. They just fly about a bit. But what's interesting about these bees, the return on investment for the hive is so much greater for these 10% than the rest of the hive, because it's these bees that find new sources of nectar, of sustenance, of security for the hive. A competing hive moves in And Johnny look out of the window, B, goes, oh, there's some flowers over here that I saw when I was flying around, fucking about. We fucker around as not paying attentioners are the ones that help communities to adapt to different forms of adversity by invention, discovery, and just fucking around a bit. We're not the refiners or the producers or the organisers. The greatest return on investment that we can offer is fucking about, procrastinating, pondering, staring out of that window. The minute we're driven into a you need to do that again is the minute our offering to society, to fellow humans, is diminished, diluted and devalued. Creative, creator, inventor. It's too lofty. We're afforded the opportunity to languish in our own ponderance, in our own reflection and procrastination and fucking aboutery by the very nature of other people refining, producing and organising. We're part of the hive and shouldn't afford ourselves special privileges simply because the world needs less of us. I love the idea that there's a community working fields next to a running river, and there's this really annoying bloke who really doesn't contribute. Jeffrey, could you stop staring at the river and actually bag up some wild garlic or whatever? And then a marauding band of marauderers comes in to nick all the wild garlic and do unthinkable things to members of the village. At which point Jeffrey goes, there's a shallow bit of the river here we could get across and run away. And I've seen actually there's some more wild garlic over there. In fact, there's loads more. Why don't you tell us in the fucking first place? I think what I'm trying to say is I see so many people like us punishing themselves, seeking an explanation of why they don't seem to fit in, they don't seem to absorb, they don't seem to produce at the level that other people seem to produce. They don't seem to be settled in life or organised. We don't feel comfortable when booking holidays 3 months in advance, organising our finances. I mean, I've had an accountant chasing me for a receipt for a camera for the last 3 months. And every time they bring it up, it brings up like an ache in the pit of my stomach of like, why? Why do I need to do that? I'm really busy smelling wild garlic. Why do we feel when that normal bit of our brain is engaged that we somehow, we're scouts? And the reason I think why us musicians have historically, without exception, been paupers, having to venture from one village to another to play for a meal, is because of our insistence and slightly conservative approach to the thing that we're really shit at, and that is business. Good at invention, good at hyper-focus on the thing that will get us fed. We're so keen to charge a premium for something that has become democratised, exploited and devalued. Pandora's box has been opened, the cat is out of the bag, the soil has been over-farmed, and you can't turn that back, I'm afraid. Daniel Ek is a cock, and his buttock-like face, speaking as someone with a buttock-like face myself, just reeks of someone who is still, considering all of his riches, filled with envy and fury that someone could possibly profit, and profit greatly, from staring out of the fucking window. Not only that, but get shags out of it. I mean, look at the lengths that bloke from Amazon has had to go to rub shoulders with Katy Perry. He's had to build these huge penis-shaped rockets and promise them trips to space in order just to sit in the same cabin as the girl who kissed another girl and liked it. In looking to the future, in looking at, like, taking the metaphor of agriculture for what we do, in seeing, the industrial farming techniques that have been introduced into the world of creation of music that underscores TikToks, I'd like to carve a route, and it's something I've touched at for years now, that helps to rewild music. I've hated computerized music from the outset, and I've been so kind of a part of it. And I love them. I love what computers have enabled us to do and will continue to enable us to do. But the reason why AI will ultimately, it'll be there. There'll be beds made by that stuff. The reason why AI will never become AA, artificial art, or true art, is because it's not what people want. It's not what people are asking for. If we, and I know there's people who don't have a choice here, but if we simply picked food because it kind of tasted nice, was cheap, available, and served to us quickly, we'd have McDonald's for every single meal. But why do we still jump at the opportunity of a home-cooked feast, breaking bread with others? I think that's the key. It's not just the consumption of music and what it is we relate to, it is the creation of it. And music historically, to quote evolution, has been the coming together of people in a room around a fire, banging a drum, blowing a flute, singing a song together, to share in an experience, to scare away the demons, to rid us of sorrow, to tell stories and warn each other away from pitfalls we ourselves have taken. It's not a commodity, simple as that. And the problem we have as conservative and slightly shit business people is to love making music and what it is, truly to make music, that wonderful feeling, whether you're doing it alone or with people, but to be somewhat old-fashioned and myopic about the way that we commodify and sell it and monetize it. And it is that democratization and devaluation turning music into widgets, which will spell disaster to many of our businesses, but will also ensure that the fears that we have for artificial intelligence, the computerization and automation of music, the generation of music, they're unfounded and not worth us losing any sleep over. Our businesses, yes. So we've got to head out there and do some scouting. And I'm going to go and do some scouting. And for me, it's about rewilding the whole thing and getting people together, because it's something, bizarrely, that technology can't do. Not truly. That electricity, quantum entanglement that we feel, the energy, the synchronicity, the point at which our hearts beat in unison or subdivisions, just can't do it because we can't explain it. And if it can't be explained, it can't be commodified, commercialized, or exploited.